Hey everybody, what is going on? My name is Eric McGrew with Eric's Tree Service in Montrose, Colorado, also with Elevated Office Podcast. And today we are going to be speaking about a topic that came up to me last night from one of my subscribers and one of the viewers of my channel. They're actively listening to the podcast, they're actively watching my Instagram lives and things like that. Now, just real quick, I would like to mention that the Instagram lives are being shifted over to Facebook or YouTube Live, and the reason for that is because now in my new website, I have a direct link to my channel, and these will automatically propagate in that area. Now, I don't want to give up on Instagram Live and all that kind of stuff. I really appreciate my fan base on Instagram. Hopefully, though, you guys will come over to my YouTube and also subscribe, as well as please don't forget to check out what's going on my website, and let's get started with the topic. All right, so the topic that came up that I was asked about recently was what I feel about or think about the Akimbo, considering the fact that some people don't feel comfortable climbing on the RRPro currently. Um, I don't know. It's kind of a weird question. So if we just break it down to a little bit, because I think it's deeper, really, than just what do you think about the Akimbo? I can tell you what I think about the Akimbo, and it's okay. You'll notice actually that recently I've probably started climbing 80% on the Akimbo, and I've probably only been climbing about 10-15% on the RRPro. I have a Zigzag as well, and various other things. So why the change of heart? Because at one point I definitely said that I preferred the Rope Runner and the Rope Runner Pro. Well, here's why. Rope Runner Pros are great and they are super smooth, super fluid, and I really prefer that device as far as fluidity in the tree and moving through the canopy overall. But that being said, there are a couple of reasons that it's not my favorite device any longer. So one of those reasons is I use a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1, depending on how it's set up, quite a bit in the tree, and it's set to be used on either my lanyards or also my tail of my climb line. This helps me just like if I'm getting up to a branch where I have to keep myself off the branch and I want to get up on top of the branch instead of having to try to like shimmy past a branch and then try to like lower myself onto the branch and all this stuff. I can just like put my feet on the branch and I put the 2-to-1 on it if I'm in SRS mode, and I just haul myself up those few feet and I'm right there, and it's way less effort on my body. It's way less effort on my arms, on my shoulders, all that kind of stuff. And it's easy to get in position in a more like controlled and finite way. Okay. When I do this, the Akimbo automatically opens up and stays in its locked position as it should to hold you. Rope Runner Pros, even though they've recently said, relatively recently, they came out officially and said, yes, it can be used in DDRT or MRS situations and configurations. It does not tend to reopen on its own many times when you are using it in a compressed form like this 3-to-1 or even sometimes in doubled rope systems. You have to really watch the bird flap. You have to push it up on the beak, and you have to make sure that it locks every time. So is it a deal breaker? Is it the end of the world? No, it's not. But it is an annoyance. Okay. The Rope Runner Pro also, like, you barely bump the bottom of it with something, like if you hip thrust up on something or you're just climbing like monkeying around to get into a new position and the rope doesn't really at that point help you as much as being just like a safety line. If your bridge or saddle pushes on the bottom of that pulley, it can make that bird beak drop, and then it does spring back open, but if there's the slightest tension, it just stays closed. And then you have to remember to do it yourself or it won't really open up on you. And it's not a defect, it's just the fact that that device is so long. It has a huge amount of headspace. So I have stopped climbing on it as much as I did because of the style of climbing that I do. Now, that all being said, the third thing that I know about the Rope Runner Pro that made me swap, oops, didn't mean to kick my camera, is the fact that it It's got a lot of headspace in it, and it's it's a bit of a nuisance in certain situations, and the Akimbo is much more compact. Now, a fourth situation that's not really the reason I quit climbing with it, but it has something to do with it, is the fact that it's, even though it's technically midline attachable, da 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 da, the whole non-drop parts thing is a myth and a lie. I've only had it happen a couple of times, but well, maybe three or four. But it's like really ridiculous that they can't figure out a way that that pulley like doesn't fall off randomly. Um, I do everything seemingly the same way, and I'm pretty analytical about the way that I move and do things. I do everything seemingly the same, and all of a sudden one day I look down and I hear a clang, and there's the pulley that fell off, and I have no idea what occurred that made it fall off that time when the other 50 times it did not. So I find I find it to be a little bit less consistent and predictable than I would like. So that's my take on it. Now, I will say that the Akimbo is really not my favorite device. And people are going to be like, well, why are you climbing on it? Well, I climb on it because of efficiencies and practicalities. I think that the RRPro is definitely more smooth in the tree. I don't really worry that much about the whole recall thing and all that stuff. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't check the RRPro. You should be worried about a defective device. So if you are concerned, check the serial numbers, the manufacturing date, and get it recalled and replaced or whatever it might be. However, it's not a concern to me that I'm going to stop using it. Okay, that's the difference. Now, what is the what is the reality then? Well, the reality is that the midline attachableness of the Akimbo is, in my opinion, stellar. I know a lot of guys who say, well, I don't need that, I'd never take it off my line. That's fine. You climb your way, I climb my way. So if you like to midline attach devices and things while in the tree, and I have very specific reasons why I do that, then the Akimbo definitely is a much better device in that scenario. Second, the headspace. Like, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 6'2". I'm 235 pounds, and the headspace of the Akimbo is just way more concise, and it's just better overall in the sense that I can easily get close to a tree trunk or a branch, and it's not going to like drop me. If I have weight on the line, and it's not going to like collapse as easily, and if it does, it's like just a split second and it opens back up. Whereas the rope runner's so big that it needs more space to open up fully. And I don't like that feeling. I don't like to be focused on trying to get into position and then all of a sudden my rope kind of like get slack in it when I wasn't expecting it. So I've gone to the Akimbo for that reason as well. And then in spar work form, I like it because it is so compact that when I have a lanyard around and I'm on spikes on a spar, it's still small enough that it has space for me to like lean back and it be okay for me. So those are a few things that I know about the devices that I like. Plus, in doubled rope system and in the 2-to-1s, the Akimbo does open up readily, and you don't have to worry about it staying collapsed when that stuff occurs. Now, something to know is that it's not as fluid on the rope, and the more like grippy the rope is, so like when you're using it on ropes like Blue Moon, I tried it on a hot wire once. Some guys have used it on like Samson Blue, so I just tried it on that for giggles. And those kinds of really grippy ropes that are kind of like fluffy and they have some serious traction to them, I find that the Akimbo is at best unpredictable as far as not gripping. It's going to grip, but like how much pressure you have to put on it to get it to come down, it's very hard to get it just right so it just smoothly descends. So I just learned to deal with it. I pretty much always rappel with my hand on the bottom of the line off to the left-hand side like I was rappelling off of a figure 8 or whatever, and it tends to create a better motion because I can move the tail of the rope out to the left or forward or whatever, and it just works better for me. There is this like weird breakover period in it where when you push it, it doesn't do anything, and then all of a sudden it kind of jars and then it slides down. Now, I do understand that this is more of an issue for us bigger guys because remember, one of the big differences between the Akimbo and the Rope Runner Pro is the fact that you have 2 points of contact versus 3 points of contact. So the Akimbo has only 2 points of contact, friction contact, and then the Rope Runner Pro has 3. The more points of contact, relatively speaking, you can get too many, and then it's annoying. But that third point of contact makes it a bit more smooth in the descent. Okay, now short people have a little bit harder time with the Rope Runner Pro. So if you're under like, I don't know, 5'7", I've heard and I've seen that it kind of annoys people to use the Rope Runner Pro because the thing is so long that it's like right in your headspace all the time, and you're kind of like reaching above you to get to it if you're a shorter person because of your, the stretch in your saddle, the compression on the sides and elongation, and then your rope, your bridge, and all that stuff. It just makes it longer, right? So some people like the Akimbo for just the space factor. There's less head space. It's just easier. Now, also, when you're considering the fact that the Akimbo is kind of jerky for me, it's not nearly as fluid as I would like it to be, and it's definitely not as fluid as the Rope Runner Pro. The reality of it is that for smaller people, an Akimbo does tend and descend smoother because you don't have to have the cam twisted as much. The more you twist that cam friction device in there, bollard, it's going to make a tighter spacing. So like for me as a bigger guy, that cam has to be twisted more and it's compressing against the rope instantly more. There's not as much space living in there, and I can't really, there's always an additional amount of friction which affects its tending upwards and also its descent, breaking loose and all that kind of stuff. Whereas lighter guys, that cam wouldn't have to be twisted as hard. I'm on like the second to the last letter, and I'm on like the third or the last number or something, or vice versa. I don't remember. I don't know. But I'm almost maxed out on an 11.7 rope on the Akimbo because of my weight. I mean, you put me 235 as a person with my saddle and everything, and now we're at like 280. We're pretty up there with my weight and things, but it does work, and it's a decent device. Now, as far as the concerns about the Rope Runner Pro, yes, be concerned about the device. Make sure that you're doing everything you need to make sure that that device is like up to date. If it needs a recall, make sure you send it in or talk to them about whatever recall or whatever it is that you need. However, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to whether I'm going to buy a device based on one recall. And the reason for that is because I feel like you should always be prepared, no matter what device you're working on or climbing with, to handle a potential failure. Even if there's not a recall, let's say you didn't realize that your Akimbo was on the bottom of your bag and it got slammed really hard onto a rock when it got dropped out of the truck or whatever it might be. It could have a fracture in it. It could, whatever, a bolt could be loose, whatever. And if you didn't happen to catch it in your inspection, or if you just forgot, or if whatever, or if it worked loose while you were climbing, which is unlikely, but I'm just saying you can't ever like just say this will never happen. Manufacturing is not perfect. It's way better than it was in centuries past and decades past, but it's not perfect. So you have to account for the fact that machine error, human error, material malfunction, whatever, could potentially cause a defect and a risk situation on any device you're climbing. So if you like the way that the Rope Runner Pro is running, I don't know that I would say really go get away from the Rope Runner Pro. Maybe make sure that your recall is done and, just inspect your device, do everything that they're telling you what to do to check it. It doesn't. I don't. It doesn't worry me, to be honest. I just, if something occurs, I'll deal with it in the moment. That's kind of what my philosophy is on that. And there are things you can do that will help you in the future. So we can talk about that as well to prevent these issues if you want. Um, but other than that, yeah, I mean, they're both good. They have their pros and cons. I don't think one is perfect by any means, and I wouldn't ever go tell somebody, oh, get off of the Akimbo for the Rope Runner Pro or get off the Rope Runner Pro for the Akimbo. I think that they both have their own merits, that they're both designed in a way that different people would appreciate them. And I would say that I wouldn't, as much as I'm not a huge fan of Notch, as a general rule, the fact that this is a really well developed device, and yeah, it's having a flaw right now, still, I think that it's not like to the point where you should be like throwing away your Rope Runner Pro and giving up on the Rope Runners. That's just my opinion on it. But I do think that you should have backup measures set so that you can effectively and quickly control a situation before it gets out of hand. So we'll talk about that here in the future. Hope this helps out a little bit. If you want to give the Akimbo a try, I recommend it. I recommend having 2 or 3 different devices all the time. I mean, I have like the Akimbo, I have the original Rope Runner, the Rope Runner Pro, I have the Zigzag, I have Hitch Climber too. Figure 8s, they're not really for ascent, but I have a bunch of different stuff in case something occurs. Of course, the old, no, you should know how to use a taut line or a Blake's hitch or a Prusik and tie a Prusik on, and yeah, I don't believe that you should be solely stuck on one device. Now, if you have a preferred device and you use it 90% of the time, that's fine. There's no problem with that whatsoever. But first off, don't be quick to give up on the Rope Runner Pro just because of this mishap. Because manufacturing, I mean, next month Akimbo could come out and say, Rock Exotica could say the Akimbo has a defect as well, or next year or whatever. I'm not saying that they will. I haven't heard anything in the pipeline, so don't go spreading rumors. I'm saying nothing is guaranteed, right? So, and then you might hear of somebody who misused or did something or whatever, and they died using a device or were really injured. And you could be like, oh no, well, what about this device? Well, a lot of it's situational. Even with recalls, a lot of it's situational. We're not talking about like the Toyota situation back in the late 90s where the accelerator was sticking at full throttle and just taking off. And it was like a large percentage of their cars. We're talking about a situation where, yeah, it's concerning, but they're working on making it better, and they're also giving us the tools to know how the information to know how to test it. Okay, so if you like the Rope Runner Pro, set up some backup situations and scenarios, and figure out if it's worth climbing on for you anymore, and if not, then there's a bunch of devices out there. The Akimbos, I don't know that they've ever had a recall, so they're pretty solid devices for sure. You can always go back to the original Rope Runner because it runs very similarly to the Rope Runner Pro. It's just not quite as comfortable. In some ways, though, I like it better. It's just a preference thing once again. And then you also have like the Unisender and various other things. Now, I'm not a big Unisender fan. That was my first device ever, and yeah, I'm just not. I don't know. It's not my device. I might buy another one day to kind of give it more of a go as a more experienced climber, but yeah, not my thing. Okay, so hopefully that helps you guys out. Hopefully that's some balanced information for you. If you're coming here to hear me say, oh, go do this, you'll never get that from me because honestly, it's very dependent on your situation. If you want to know more about what's best for your situation, then I would recommend that you set up a consultation with me. This is what I do. I run my company, but I'm also a arborist and tree professional consultant, and I can get some more niche down information about your climbing style, your personal situation, your setup, and maybe we can figure out what would be best for you at that point. Well, not maybe, I know I could, because that's what I do. I analyze things. Speaking about all that, Elevated Office Consulting, along with Elevated Office Podcast, is putting on the first ever webinar. That is March 5th, 2022. You can buy tickets for it. It's $80 a person, and we are having a max of 50 attendees. Now, this event is going to be sponsored by Gap Arbor Supply, Weaver Arborist, and Justin DeSaules, as well as H&S Wedges has said that they're going to send out some stuff to give away as well. And then Kirsten Locke, Lucas Bielfeld, Zach Richards, Josiah, and myself are all speaking at the seminar, and we are also going to be using videos and maybe some live streaming to help demonstrate what we're talking about. And we are trying to build in plenty of time for questions and answers. It's going to be, the speaking portions of it are going to be right around 5 hours. The whole thing might be a little bit longer than that. And I guarantee you, you as a business owner or your crew or both are going to walk away with some information, at least, that was totally worth the price of admission, not to mention the gifts and the giveaways that we're doing as well. So if you're interested immediately so that you're not forgotten, go and send me an email, message me, or comment that you want to be part of the event, and I will get in touch with you and I will put you down on the list as soon as my website's up, which I hope will be by the end of this weekend that's coming up. I will have the link so that you can go purchase them directly through the website, and you'll get all the information you need there. So thank you guys. Hope to see you in the next one, and I hope you guys are all safe and have a good Friday. Bye.